Welcome to Real Leaders with Roshini, the podcast with real talk, real questions, real insight, and we hope real inspiration. For real. We're here at Capitol Grill in downtown Minneapolis, which is no stranger to Real Leaders. My guest today is Lieutenant Bob Kroll. He is president of the Police Officers Federation of Minneapolis, a long-time police officer. You have SWAT experience, military experience. Lieutenant Kroll, thanks for being with me.
Thanks for having me.
All right. First of all, I want to talk SWAT. What were some of the biggest eye-opening moments for you when you were on the SWAT team?
Boy, we're going back almost ancient history. When I made lieutenant about 12 years ago, I had to leave the team because there's only one of those. So it's SWAT on the MPD is just a great experience. It's all your guys that played football and never went anywhere, and played hockey and never went anywhere, and it's just kind of
that's the real scope.
Right. That's still in a lot of military guys. So anyway, I got on. I tried out at first eligibility and was on as an officer for 4 years. I got promoted to sergeant, had to leave the team. Tested for the first sergeant's vacancy and got back on a year later. So I've been on a total of 15 years. But as far as experiences, I mean, there 3 different occasions we had critical incidents where we were fired upon breaching the door. One of them, I think, holds the record for the most shots fired ever at 26th and Penn North, and it was my 4th day as a warrant sergeant. So I was a new team leader, and we ended up encountering an armed suspect inside. He had pointed a shotgun at us. We fired at him, and what turned out to be our outside perimeter, the team we were doing the warrant for, fired in at us. So it was a they recovered 250 casings from the scene.
So they were on your side.
They were on our side. They thought they were getting shot at from inside the house. They fired through the house. I had an officer go down in that. We extracted him. We turned out we got 3 guys out of there. Armed guy, the suspect that had the shotgun was hit. Medical for him and medical for one of my officers. Non-life-threatening to either one, but that was obviously the worst.
High stress situations. So in those situations, you're taught shoot to stop the threat. I've learned. Correct. Not shoot to injure, not shoot to. I mean, shoot to stop the threat, and often that does mean kill.
We're trained to shoot center mass, and the reason for that is under the stress of all those conditions, if you're aiming center mass and you get a hit, you're lucky. So that's the reason you always aim for center mass, and that's where maybe you'll get some peripheral shots, but you shoot until the threat ends.
You've been in a lot of high stress, high pressure situations. What's your advice to lay people, non-officers?
Don't do it.
Don't become a cop.
In all honesty, we're recruiting right now. We're down in strength. We've got a higher authorized strength, and we need people. So if you've got an interest in law enforcement, I say that kiddingly, don't do it, but by all means apply.
What are some of the high points? Because I want to get into this. Law enforcement has come under a lot of pressure lately. The community, there have been a lot of issues that are controversial. Not everybody loves cops.
Correct.
So why would it be a good time right now to become a police officer?
There's just really not a lot of interest. Recruitment is strained because of the perception of police, public perception, and oftentimes media and hype by smaller groups. I think with the general population, we still have a very good relationship and a lot of respect, but people don't want to be scrutinized that much in your everyday life. Everything we do now is under body camera. Everything we do is reviewed in slow-mo and rewind.
Helpful, hurtful?
Well, I think the body cameras have been proven to be very helpful for us. Some of our last shootings, it showed that the officers are doing exactly what they're supposed to do, and quite honestly, it's a violent profession.
And when there's a bad egg, the cameras show it.
Correct. And I think that you're showing, the body cameras are showing, by and large, all the good work that the officers do, and very rarely are you going to see that bad egg, as you say. So I think they've been helpful, but people don't want to go in and be under such constant scrutiny.
Especially
so it's
when
really
you're
hurt
a rookie,
recruitment. Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Because it could mean, okay, now you're out.
Yes.
I was recently reading an article in the New York Times, sort of a profile and expose about Gen Z. Okay. In that article, it said Gen Z came of age as the Black Lives Matter movement started. So this is their world. Their world is video. Their world is texting. Not a lot of one-on-one. It's a lot of online communication.
Correct.
Not face-to-face communication. You have had the Black Lives Matter movement in your backyard. You've said some things. You've said some things that have got a lot of criticism. Where do you stand with the movement now? What's your take? What have you and your officers learned?
Well, I think that movement has been somewhat put back on its heels because the facts, as things turn out to be, when there is patience for these officer-involved shoots and the to unveil, and the facts are in and the truth is out, it clears the officers by and large. Right now we've got a very controversial trial going on, very high-profile one. So we'll see how that
any
comes.
day, right? That could happen any decade, any year, any
correct.
day.
But if you look back at our last several shootings, the officers' body cameras, not just Minneapolis but beyond, I think the narrative that has been pushed by BLM, when you go back on a national level, these cases have been disproved. So I think a lot of credibility has been gone. And I got in a lot of trouble for saying they're a terrorist organization, and I've often threw out, well, come debate me.
Do you regret that?
Not a bit. Let's do a Google definition. Let's do a Webster's definition. Let's look at some of the acts that have happened and tell me where it's not. I'll debate those facts with anybody, anytime.
All right. I want to come back to some hot topics in a moment. But first, whether people realize it or not, you were kind of a confirmed bachelor. You got married in 2018.
Correct.
How has that changed your life? You gained an adorable son who's now 6. How has that all changed?
It's changed my life immensely. I say probably once a week I could have never had the career I had having a family during that time.
Why is that?
I was all in on the job. Whether it was SWAT or it was the Federation. I was on the Federation board for 23 years all told. The last 4 as president. So as a side duty, I had the Federation. As a side duty, I had SWAT. Along that time, I did 21 years in the Army Reserve. I've had a very fortunate, very blessed career. I made it through the ranks. I promoted to civil service. Lieutenant is as high as you can go. So all those things considered, I've worked a ton of overtime. If you drive past a place out here, chances are that I've worked part-time there. I was in the city most of my life working in one capacity or another.
And you're saying that wouldn't have been conducive
I
to
would have
family.
never been able to do the family thing
You
and have the
wouldn't,
career.
but some officers do.
Oh yeah, and it's difficult. I don't know how people that have additional duties, whether it's SWAT or whether it's the bike patrol or whether it's horses or anything like Federation, how they do it and hold it together and raise a family. I'm fortunate now I don't work any more off-duty jobs. I don't work any overtime. I have my one job, which can be, it's a lot like police work. Sometimes it's sheer boredom, there's nothing going on, and the next time you've got nothing but chaos to deal with. Correct.
Right.
So it's up and down, but with it I get a lot of flexibility. You're never really off work. I'm always responding to anything that comes up, no matter what, weekends, nights, doesn't matter. But at the same time, I got flexibility, and that allows me a lot with my stepson, who's into everything. He's all boy, complete sports.
And I hear you have a very close relationship with him.
Yes, yeah, he's a great little guy. Kindergarten.
Do you worry about the world he's in now compared with the world you were in?
Yes, very much growing up. We live in the northern burbs, which I don't worry about them there at all. But just the way things are when you get out, right now the economy's great, job market, but you worry about that stuff when they're getting older and you want them to get through school and succeed and have a better life than what we did. I went to 2-year community college by going to the Army, so Army Reserve. So I think he's got a better head start with that, and he's certainly got a great disposition and better personality than I ever had growing up.
Oh, well, that's very honest of you. What would you say to a young recruit, man or woman, who just started in law enforcement, regardless of where in the country they are?
Follow what you want to do. This career was what I wanted to do my whole life. It was a calling. Don't be frustrated by some perceptions or some, which may be wrong perceptions of us. And do what you want to do and make the most of it. I've done a lot of things in the job, and I'm happy I did every bit of it. And if that is, you just want to be, and I say just because it's the backbone of the police department, coming on, I was perfectly content with rolling around in a squad car with good partners for 30 years if need be. But I was fortunate enough to have other opportunities and advanced. But the biggest respect should go to that career-long street cop that rotates or works nights, weekends, holidays, and is out responding to things that every call is different.
And one of the things, as a talk show host myself, and in my past life as a TV reporter, I've interviewed a lot of cops and sheriff's deputies and support teams for law enforcement. And, for the most part, I've had really great experiences with them. And they are the ones, when I was a TV reporter, would give me tips on things. They'd be on different scenes and talk with us when they're in high-pressure situations. What is your advice to the community? Because there are some communities you walk into, you may not be welcome, but at the end of the day, you are a police officer, you're trying to protect the community. What do you want the community to know about law enforcement?
Just give the benefit of the doubt to us and let the facts play out. In recent years, we have these protests and the freeway blockings and light rail disruption, bus disruption. Just give us the benefit of the doubt and let the facts play out as they may. And if you're having an interaction with an officer, you've got a duty to comply. And if you feel you've been mistreated, there's about 13 different venues that you can have recourse against that officer if you feel you have been wronged.
You can file a grievance.
Correct. You can file a complaint with our Office of Police Conduct Review, our internal affairs, human rights. You can file civil suits. There's all types of recourse available to you. Utilize one of those, but in the meantime, comply with what you're requested to do.
On the
moment, comply, even if you think it's way out of the ordinary, because there's a reason our officers do what they do, and they just don't have time to debate or justify it on the scene. The best offer of advice I could give is just comply and let with what they're doing, and when the incident's over, if the officer's a good one, they're going to explain to you why they did exactly what they did and walk you through what's happening in their mind, the information they had on the call. Oftentimes I'd put people in a squad car and say, see, read what I had. This is the only information. You're who I encountered. This is why I did what I did. And often it ends with a handshake and more understanding, and just afford us that opportunity. If it ends bad, utilize one of the other things that are at your disposal.
Sometimes the laws that are in place, both locally or from the federal level, dictate what you can and can't do. And so the topic of immigration, and that has been a hot topic, especially under the Trump presidency. What is your stance on what you and your officers should do?
Very much so. Well, you have to, and I say unfortunately, but you've got to work with what your department manual calls for, and we are not to alert ICE to anything. You just book and you ask only the questions that are asked. And I've had to go around with the mayor over this, my personal beliefs versus what city policy is. And
are you able to separate them, Bob, Lieutenant Kroll?
Am I what?
Are you able to separate your personal beliefs with the law and what your
correct? You have to do with what the policy requires. You may not be happy with it, but there's laws out there you're not happy with either. So you've got to do as instructed. And right now ours is, you ask your standard booking questions. There's no alerting to ICE or any other type of agency like that, and it is what it is. Am I happy with it? Not at all.
All right, so, you're in kind of the last years in this role. You're looking ahead to future. As you look back on your career, be just, really candid with me. Is there anything that you really wish you had done differently? A particular decision, a certain community you were in, a specific trial where you were a witness?
I look back at my first couple years, and my first couple years as president in the Federation, even though I had a lot of time on the board prior and a lot of knowledge of our inner workings, I kind of went right into a firestorm. And you probably shoot off your mouth a little bit too much. That would be that might be one thing. But I think in the end I could back up what was said. When I go back to the Jamar Clark, and within a few days after, a day or two after, I had a very strong public statement that brought a lot of scrutiny. But our then chief reiterated basically a year later, said exactly what I said, only I said it, a year sooner. So, and she didn't get any scrutiny. Of course, she ended up out beyond that, or after that. But
so,
but otherwise, I've been very fortunate. I've had a great career. I don't regret any of the moves. I mean, I wish I could have stayed on SWAT longer. That would have been one thing. I think if I would have had a SWAT commander position, I may not be where I'm at on the Federation board, but that wasn't my decision to make.
What would you like your legacy to be as president of the Police Officers Federation of Minneapolis?
What I'm trying to do right now is just cultivate new leadership, and we don't have a lot of younger leadership that wants to step up, and it's kind of concerning because you got to stick with this. Our pensions are at stake. The working rights for the unborn officers that aren't even on yet are at stake. So you got a lot of responsibility in that role, and it is before people come on the job and long after they retire. You're always a part of that, and I want to cultivate some new membership interest in leadership positions and pass on what we've already got going. I think we've got a good thing going. I won't say turned around because I've had good predecessors in my role and other good board members along the line, or along the way. But the biggest challenge I've got right now is getting people to step up. My president's role, we're kind of set there. There's going to be an easy transition. There's my vice president is probably just going to assume the role unless she doesn't want it. It's hers to have. We worked full time together in the office now, and she's a lot smarter than me. She already proofreads everything that I put out and makes corrections and tidies it up for any kind of written releases. And
I'd
things
love
like
to
that.
hear you have a woman in that role who is ready to step up.
Correct.
And you want her to.
Correct. Yeah.
I love to hear that. Do you think law enforcement needs more women?
Law enforcement needs good people, no matter what you look like, and I think there is too much focus placed on who is what, and I think a lot of the women officers will be the first to tell you, it's like, this is the job I do. It's not, I'm not a woman this, and I'm not a woman that, and obviously if Cheryl does decide she wants to succeed me, which I think is the plan, she's the longest tenured person. She's been on the board about 15 years, and she is the VP, and she's in full time. She's the most well positioned. I don't know if she's going to want to be the head of that. It's maybe she might do a little arm twisting, but she'll be the first to tell you it's not about being a woman or a man on the job. Which
is great to hear. I mean, I would just love real leaders with Roshini. We want leaders, and genderless, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
It's how you lead, how you live. How do you have fun?
Can I say it on the radio?
Yeah, you can say it here, right here on Real Leaders.
I know. Well, that's changed immensely in the last couple of years too. It was motorcycles, Mexico in the winter, motorcycles in the summertime. Every morning starts at the gym about 6 o'clock with a workout. So that's about it. I'm in a very good club of motorcycles. We've gotten some bad press, which was complete false narrative press. We have a great time. My motorcycle club does a lot of good things. We got a benefit ride coming up on June 2nd. We do an annual one every year. We raise thousands of dollars for someone law enforcement related in need. But that's the big event, and that's kind of changed now. And a lot of it's mite hockey now, and little soccer is coming up here. And
with the little son.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
We're in Capitol Grill. If you could be a drink, a cocktail, a wine, a spirit, what would Lieutenant Bob Kroll be?
Probably what I like to drink, IPAs.
Okay. What is it about the IPA?
Great new creation in recent years. I grew up being a special exporter, a Budweiser guy, I guess, and so much better beers are out there available now. So
you're just as you have evolved, your taste in beer has evolved.
Yes.
All right. We will leave it at that. Thank you, Lieutenant Bob Kroll.
Thanks for having me, Roshini. It's always fun.
Chatting with you. Until next time, keep it real.